We'd like to welcome all of our listeners back to part 2 of our episode entitled East Meets East with drummer and tabla player Ko Omura from Tokyo, Japan. Stay tuned to hear Ko's sharing of his India experiences with the local audience in Japan and how the current COVID situation led him to save one of Tokyo's oldest jazz venues and has inspired his documentary in the making. You're listening to Music for Good, a podcast with the Bombay Jazz Club. I'm your host, D. Wood. You've been associated with India for seven odd years now, and your experience in India is probably something that you bring back with you, and you're able to address certain issues that perhaps people back in Japan have more difficulty coping with. I'm being presumptuous, but how has the Indian experience, say, impacted you in your work with your students, or with how have you been able to share your experience here to somehow share something of value with people back in Japan?
I feel very honored to, as you kind of put it earlier, in the conversation, that you kind of been a bridge. I've been in a position of a bridge man between India and I feel really humbled to be in that position. And I never really, when I first started going to India, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be the bridge man in India. I never came with that intention. I was just wanted to learn this art form. It was just that, and I'm still on that journey. It's been really interesting back in Japan because people who are sensitive to these things show a lot of interest in my experiences in India. They always have something great to take back, because India has so much to offer. It's like, well, if you're in Mumbai, which is like a big city, it's like an international city. It's like a huge city, and there's
village at the same time.
There's billionaires, there's like, street guys that are living off like a samosa a day, right? And, like when you come from a city from like Tokyo or New York or Sydney, you don't see that kind of extremities in livelihoods, like in Mumbai or Delhi. So, like when people come there, they're shaken. Their consensus of what life is, I think, challenged in multiple ways. And when I take back these stories, I mean, certain people are very it is almost like a shock for them. Some people, from what I get as an impression, it's like, wow, that happens there. Like I share episodes about, if we're talking about cooking in Japan, and like, oh, I was just in Mumbai, I was traveling on a train, and I saw like a bunch of ladies squatting and, just chopping up onion on the train, and, they'll take it back home and fry it up.
Yeah.
That kind of episode just kind of like takes them apart. It's like, what? Like it's just like a scene from a movie, of a sci-fi movie for them.
Well, if you've never been in a place like this, where there's such glorious chaos that's beautifully orchestrated somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
It's mind-blowing. And I've been in India over half my life.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know, India sucked me in and sometimes spit me out, but it sucks me in more than it spits me out. And I've been around. And I still find every day something fascinating or something really kind of unique or charming or just mind-blowing or some surprise. It's never boring. And I find life back home in the States, where I spent some of my formative years, high school, junior high school. I lived in Japan, of course, before then.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Another part of our connection. I never felt as home in the United States as I felt both in Japan and in India. There's a certain kind of resonance. I can't really explain it, but it just appeals to me far more. I feel much more nurtured in a Asian culture than I do, back in the States, man, which seems in many ways, aside from our incredible culture, it's also really bland. Day-to-day life seems to be so bland in the United States, in a lot of places. And I find that I can't wait to get back here.
I wanted to ask you about the jazz club that you saved. So how did that, what was that entire story?
Oh, that one. Oh, so when
Yeah, man, what's the deal?
So when the corona thing started going crazy, so it started in China. Apparently that was the whole media narrative, and it started to jump around the globe. So WHO started to say, oh, it's a global thing. So many stuff started to shut down, and this jazz club that I've been affiliated for years and years, the guy that runs it is a unique guy, and he only books musicians that he just really believes in, and
what's the name of the club?
It's called Kamachi 63, which is his old address where he was born in. And I can send you a link of the Instagram site. That he always puts up like gig shots of Instagram videos. But anyway, so how that came about. So they're a small place. If it's 20 people in there, it's like packed out. That's the vibe. It's like really small. It's half the size of the Banjo Bass.
Okay, man. Jeez.
Yeah. So and it's got it's a really nice bar set up, and it's just like at home vibe. It's like go to your old mate's friends that is like a killer knowledge of whiskey, and it's just, anyway, and it's got a drum set and an upright piano there set up, acoustic, totally acoustic. But anyway, so I thought, wow, okay, so is that place going to survive? So the owner there had, according to with the musician's perspective, and so many like legends of the Japanese jazz scene play there and are regulars there. So he records every set, whether it's improvised or standard sets. He's had an archive of like the last 15 years worth of music that has been played there.
How many nights a week?
Like 5 nights a week.
Damn.
That's a lot of music.
Wow, incredible.
So I called him and said, how's the situation? He's like, oh, I think we might have to close. I don't know, like I don't know what to do. And so I said, why don't you I can try to set up, how about setting up a crowdfunding site? And it's like, and he didn't know anything about crowdfunding. So I said, I can try to set it up. I have an idea. So I actually asked him, can you contact every musician that has played at your place and say, can you offer those recordings as a return to support the jazz club?
Oh, wow.
So
what is this to put them out in the market for anybody who wants to bid for them like that?
So the crowdfunding concept is like, you can just pay $10, like,
just
or $20.
Directly to help out.
Yeah, and according to the price that you pay, like, okay, so you get like a few tracks of the artist that has played there, or whatever, So I set that whole thing up, and Forever said, yes, totally, let's support the clubs. So all these musicians said yes to this project. So I kind of filed a link to their website, and people have said, yeah, a full set of a show back in 2010. Okay. Sure, like, please give it out to whoever wants to support the club. So I set that whole page up. We got all the technical issues right, and we put it on the crowdfunding site, and we released a link, and so many musicians just like tweeted it, retweeted it, Facebook shared it, and in a day I think they gathered about 10 grand US.
In the first day alone.
Within 20 hours, yeah, 10 grand US, yeah.
That's a good start. And how much was required to keep them afloat?
just about that. So in a day they maxed out. So like in the whole crowdfunding, it was like they were actually asking for support for about like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, just under a month. And I think they gathered about 27 grand US. Yeah.
US.
Yeah.
Not bad for throwing money into the hat. And
yeah,
who were the profile? Yeah. What was the profile of the benefactors, of the donors? Were they listeners or the musicians themselves? Did the musicians actually kick in, or was it mainly
musicians have, but mainly listeners that have been a fan of the club, and there have been messages to the crowdfunding site where like I was always wanting to visit. Some people from remote places of Japan. It's like I've always been a fan of your concept of the venue. I've never actually been there, but you know, I'm a fan of all the musicians that I've been playing there. I love a set, so can I purchase it as a support? You know, like, so.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant, man.
Yeah, so that was amazing. You know, it was great to see that unfold, and you know, they're still running, and you know, they're doing okay. They're still surviving.
So tell us more about the documentary that you are, the vision that you have for your documentary.
Yeah, I mean, for that, right now, I think me and Dee were having a conversation of, because this has been this Corona narrative, or the crisis has been just like a world. How would you call it? Like, it was like a big earthquake, you know? So with this documentary, the concept is within this right now, what we're going through, what are people around the globe. So I just wanted to kind of focus on people of, you know, India, Japan, the connection here that I have, Australia, you know, Steve's there, New York, just what musicians and people who are committed to arts and music, what is going through their heads. And I think it could be a cohesive idea that people would show interest in around the world, because I mean, the whole narrative has changed for a lot of people. The scene has changed, but the narrative is, you know, the whole passion in believing in the art form is the same. So I wanted to capture that, you know, and what are going through in people's minds, you know, in remote different areas of the globe. I'm sure there's a lot of cohesive elements of what we're feeling and thinking.
Well, we'd share a lot of similarities in Australia, New York, Bombay, and Tokyo.
And you know, so much of life has changed, and it could change for the good, and a lot of good things might stay in the future, but it is a big change. It's like a big turbulence in humanity. So you know, it's a perfect time to document all these stuff, that what goes around on people's minds right now. So,
yeah, well, there's definitely a new baby being born, and we don't know what the hell it is, man. But it's being given birth. And
yeah, that's right. It's crazy.
What's going to come out the chute? I really don't know, man. But it's going to be unlike anything we've ever seen before. Hey, man, I would like to thank you so much for joining us, for spending this time with us, to get to know you better, what you're up to kind of build those bridges that much more sturdy, some sturdy bridges going, you know, from Bombay to the rest of the world. It's great to have this part of our community and our ambassador in Japan and everywhere else you go. So thanks so much for being with us. It's fascinating, and I think there's a lot of exciting chapters up ahead. So, you know, onward, forward we go, and can't wait for your next visit to Bombay.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, please keep in touch, and you know, whatever contributions I can make from my end, you know, I'll be always committed. I love to, you know, keep building on this, snowballing on this.
Yeah,
energy.
man. Yeah.